of like praising G2 this season. Ending on a 6-3, I think, is a very strong way to end the first half.
Yeah, I think it's great for them. You look at Spring, they were 6-2, 6-3 by the same point then. So the difference with this split has been that they haven't looked as dominant as they have in the past. Obviously, like it's good to see other teams challenging at the top. It's good to see Mad and Rogue sitting up there right now. We are on into picks and bans with Kalista getting removed, Syndra taken away by XL, the Varus taken away by G2, and we'll see where XL go with the next ban.
So a lot of these bans right now seem to be G2 making sure that Pinoy can get a comfortable AD carry matchup. Typically, you don't see Varus blue side bans. From G2 Esports, you definitely don't see Kalista bans because it's one of their go-to AD carries when Perkz is on the roster. So by banning these champions away, it seems like G2 probably want to prioritize the Ezreal, very similar to what we saw yesterday, making sure that Pinoy is already set up for success. He's on a self-sufficient AD carry, and then that also opens up Mikyx to start roaming around the map. And I like this adaptation from XL where they're like, let's ban away his Ezreal. Let's not give him that comfort, not give him that safety.
I think it makes a lot of sense, right? You want to try and get Pinoy into a position where he is not just a player that can play by himself and be safe and be on the back foot. Azir first lock here, though, for G2. I'm slightly surprised by that. It's not often you see... Well, it's just as like the first pick. When Aphelios is open, you could go for a strong jungler. Like
I think it's fine. But
I'm not saying it's bad. It's just like usually I see first pick on more than just a scaling mid laner. Is my point, I guess.
I think the logic behind it is Azir is probably the safest blind pick in the meta right now. Very few matchups actually counter him unless, you know, Special's willing to play AP Cogmore himself, and even then, early on in the lane, I think Azir has so much control. So I think it inherently gives you... That's a creepy photo. That was terrifying. Oh wow, it's like he's looked in my soul. Anyway,
yeah, that's a nice one. That's a nice one.
That is so the Azir Senna, I think this is something that we've been seeing a lot from Mad Lions, and it's just a very safe backline, and you're already setting up for a strong teamfight composition later on. Will actually G2 go for the Mad Lions approach? Will they lock in the Wukong?
I mean, they're hovering it right now. Yep,
they're going to do it. Wukong. Nice. Okay.
Mickey's like, hey, guys, I know you wanted the support to be mid-split MVP, but it was meant to be me all along, and he's going to prove in this game that he belongs to be in that conversation with Kryze right there.
All right, so a lot of dive onto the Aphelios right now. Pinoy going to be taking more of the supportive role. So again, trying to enable him, set him up for success, given that, you know, he is filling in that substitute position. XL going for that strong mid-jungle duo. We saw earlier on in the day, I believe it was our first game of the day from SK. And the power of LeBlanc and Volibear is that it's an insanely strong dual combo. So fighting in the river, fighting in the enemy jungle, whatever you want, ganking, very potent, very powerful. So the thing is, the issue that we saw from SK earlier in the game was that they were losing all of their side lanes, so they ended up getting bullied, and there was nowhere really for the LeBlanc or Volibear to roam after they got control over mid. So I want to see XL have a lane that they can easily play around, maybe put some priority on something like a Thresh or a Nautilus, so that they can look to try and punish the Senna Wukong bot, or they save their counter pick for Kryze, and then they give him a matchup where maybe they can invest some resources into diving topside and actually play around him.
I think that would be great, like giving Kryze, he is a carry top laner, right? Then what have we seen from him? We've seen Kales, Vladimir's, Camille's. Like, if you want to put some resources somewhere on this XL team, put them into Kryze, try and get him ahead, and maybe he can carry out the game. Because so far, XL have struggled to find those key carries outside of Patrik just having a stellar performance like he did on the Ezreal. Ornn and Olaf going to get removed by XL here. G2 taking away the Thresh that you talked about, Velios, and we'll see what they decide to remove as their final ban. I wonder if Morgana's okay into Wukong, just because you can Black Shield the Cyclone, and the Cyclone does physical damage, I think, so it wouldn't work.
I think you lose so much lane control, though. Like, it will get better, but I think it's... The other thing you got to remember about Wukong is it can be flexed.
That's true, so, it's strange, my initial assumption if I see Senna and Wukong, say, oh, that's obviously bot lane.
Yeah, right, it's weird. Mad Lions have done that to us, but you've got to remember that it can be flexed too. So let's wait, see what G2 decide to do with it, because, you know, they do have a tendency to innovate themselves. I think the XL going for the Lulu, I prefer the Nautilus. Yeah, okay, I prefer this because I think that the Nautilus gives you more setup and engage. And I think that if you're only running Volibear, Volibear plus Lulu can be a fine engage, but it's a bit one-dimensional. It's quite linear. You know, you just run at them really fast and you stun them and it's like, okay. And then against an Azir Wukong, I think that's very difficult. So I think adding that Nautilus gives you a little bit more of an engage tool, and I think the LeBlanc right now gives you a good backline threat. So now I kind of just want to see something from XL that either splits the enemy team up, creates a little bit more chaos, or something that just helps dive along with the LeBlanc, threatens the Azir and the Senna, and is a lane that they can look to. Yeah, we'll see. What options do they have right now? With the Sett being locked in for G2,
I mean, so that could still be Sett support Wukong top as well.
True, dude. Yeah,
like,
you're right.
It's still like super flex. I think I prefer Wukong in the bot lane mostly because Caedrel talks about how Wukong Senna are really good into Aphelios because they have sustain and they can split up fights. And okay, Quinn. Okay,
I think
it's a carry for Kryze in the top lane.
I think it's Sett support, bro.
Could be. Like, it depends who works better into Quinn, and I actually think Sett works better into Quinn because you have the passive health regeneration.
Yeah, but the passive armor on the Wukong.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
But I suppose you only get that if you're actually fighting.
Yeah,
right?
And that's the thing, like, Sett can kind of gammon it and just take a bad trade and then stand by tower and try and regen at least. So it does look like it's going to be Sett in the top lane, and that's Senna Wukong bot lane combo from Pinoy and Mikyx. XL have given themselves some carries to work in, you know, special on the LeBlanc. He's going to be really strong. Patrik will get really strong as the game goes on. Kryze in the top lane on this. Quinn could go for the Ignite as well. We do see Quinns do that from time to time and would give you more kill threat for Caedrel to play around early on. We'll see who takes the win in the final game of the half for these two teams, G2 versus XL. And on to the Rift we go. So, Veri, we set up a few different threads, a few different storylines. We layered them like Parmesan cheese on top of spaghetti. I want to know which thread we're picking up. Which one are we, which bit of cheese are we gobbling?
I kind of want to go on a little monologue here, Medic.
Oh, okay.
Just a little one.
I can mute myself again. I'm good at it.
Yeah. So, yesterday, Ender and I were talking about the split push meta, and we were talking about why can't you split push right now. And the reason why we think that split pushing as a comp is quite difficult is, number one, teams have to invest a lot of time to be able to do it properly, which I think is fair. But the other big one is the Drakes. Now, the thing about the Drakes is, if you lose the first two, you're almost always forced to then fight, right? Because you can't afford to give away that 4 Drake win condition. So what ends up happening a lot of times is teams draft this split push style comp, and then they end up being dragged into team fights just because of the dragons. So a lot of teams just instead default to team fight comps because the dragon is so important. And so my concern for XL is whether or not they'll be able to properly execute upon this 1-3-1 that they've drafted for themselves, because the reality is no one's going to be able to stop the Quinn later on into the game. I think that LeBlanc is going to be very difficult to deal with as well, but they have to try and get advantages in the early game, and they can't afford to lose all the early drakes, so they have to get either the first one or the second one, and then I think that they can be fine. But I think that those drakes are really important, because if they lose the first two, then G2 is just going to force them to 5v5, and that's where I think that they're ultimately going to end up struggling.
I get that. We'll see how the game develops and whether XL can find some of those early advantages and find that early dragon. Kryze does have a level lead here in the top lane, as Wunder is unable to step up safely. And Kryze, a player, as we said, who has just consistently been playing carries. His pool doesn't seem to include the meta tanks or the meta bruisers, much more around finding something that can win in the pure 1v1.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to take this opportunity to speak directly to the solo queue players that have played against Quinn right now. In this situation, you have to rush armor boots. Doran Shield plus armor boots, really good into range matchups like this. If I see you rushing Trinity Force, you're in trouble, because this matchup is really horrible. You need the movement speed, and you need that early armor and the passive of the boots. Anyway, jungler's a vet.
Caedrel's going to get that little bit of a shield. flashes away from Caps, but Caps is still on the chase. Now, Caps doesn't have that much mana. Special could jump in, doesn't have any corrupting potion stacks, and decides he doesn't want to be met by the jaws of Jankos with that chomp. He's just going to farm up this wave as it gets pushed in towards his tower. I expect Caps to back here, does have the teleport if he needs to get back to the lane quickly.
Yeah, good utilization of, well, good wave management overall from Caps. Ooh, back gets interrupted. I like this a lot from Special. Oh, I love this so much. So, if my back just got interrupted there, I'm complaining to Ender being like, my mid lane is ruined. This sucks. Because Caps wanted to get a cheater recall off in that situation so that he didn't have to expend the TP, but now he does as an engage out of the spot.
Mickey might just be dead here. The Ignite goes down, but Patrik can't get the final bit of damage down there. Did hit him with the moonshot, but couldn't quite get the final order of attacks in. Jankos looking for the fight here as Kryze might have to flash away, uses the jump to get back and escapes underneath the tower. Jankos, yeah, I think he could have known he wasn't going to get that one a little bit sooner, but decides just to get a little bit more damage back down. Torre is going to get forced off here in the bottom lane as Mickey jumps in, used his teleport to get back into the lane. And of course, running that on the farming Wukong in the bottom lane. I'm never sure what to call it because it's not support Wukong.
Oh, yeah, it's just Wukong.
Yeah, it's just Wukong.
Yeah. But there's a lot of things happening right now that I really like. First thing I want to touch on, I love that Torre did go for this Nautilus pick. We're seeing how powerful it can be as, ooh, good use of the W there from Mikyx to sidestep that hook. But you can see how much more agency Patrik and Torre have in this 2 versus 2 by going for the Nautilus. It allows you to set up for plays. And now that Mickey doesn't have his flash, XL can actually look for a gank towards the bot side of the map, and you're starting to see that as Special gets a couple more levels under his belt, this matchup will get harder for Caps because he has to be scared of the trading power that LeBlanc does have, meaning that Special can start to roam. Caedrel now has his eyes on a mid lane gank. Good interrupt.
He's going to stop Caps' recall again. This is what Caps did to Febiven yesterday, and XL are like, okay, we're doing it for Febby, we're giving him a taste of his own medicine, he's not allowed to recall safely at any point.
This is where I wish I could draw on the screen because it's so important, and why this means so much is because of the waves. And now Special gets to roam. Like, this is really well done from XL. They're looking for the dive onto Wunder. Let's see if they can pull it off.
Sett is not the easiest champ to dive. He has the face breaker. Caedrel's going to step forward. There's the face breaker. Haymaker's still available, and you can see the shield coming out. Kryze taking up the tower. Now it's Special. Wunder. One more auto from the minion isn't enough. He heals up with the pots. And XL have to get out of there because Jankos and Pinoy are on their way.
Wow, Wunder even still has his flash up. I can't believe he got away with that. That was so close for XL. The execution just falling short. The setup, the plan, everything was so good, Patrik. And then at the last moment, they just couldn't quite get that kill. I actually can't believe Wunder didn't use his flash there. Damn, wow. But yeah.
It's great play from Wunder, and that's what I was saying as we went into the gank, is like, Sett is hard to gank, because he face breakers you, he haymakers, he has natural regen, and he has just gone back. I was wondering if he had the Ninja Tabis before that dive happened, because if he did, then it's just too darn tanky.
Yeah, like, solo queue players, take note, Ninja Tabi, right here. It's a really good pickup. I hope you all learn that tank items not always bad, but it also, the fact that that play didn't work out is huge for a number of reasons. Number one, Kryze is running Ignite. He's not running TP. Now, as a Quinn, it's usually fine because once you got your ult, it's very easy for you to very quickly get back into lane. But the fact that they weren't able to take advantage of that early means that Wunder now has a lot more time where he can actually feel a lot safer and more comfortable in this 1v1 matchup. And also, XL aren't starting that early snowball off. Remember, we talked about how XL want to try and get this early lead. It's important for them to be in a position of power so that they can look to contest either the first or second Drake. Well, the fact that they weren't able to do that means that G2 can buy a little bit more time, and then they themselves can look to control these early Drakes, which right now, Jankos is kind of eyeing up, but they don't have priority bot, they don't have priority mid, so XL still have control over the river for now.
We'll see if XL decides to get one of those early dragons, because of course, as we said, you secure it, you stop G2 from making you fight, you can enact this 1-3-1 composition, but for now, they will just give Special his blue buff and be able just to go up towards the top side and farm. Cap's going to get a blue of his own, might even just take the honey fruit for a little bit of extra mana. And actually looks like Kryze is getting forced under his tower just a tad here. He burnt Flash in the top lane fight, in that top lane dive, so he has to be that little bit more cautious and can't be on the front foot. as Caps slides his way towards Special, who would just distort away. Now Wunder's going to use the pressure he has in the top lane to get in here. Was that control ward there all along? Did Caedrel just not check the bush? Because I don't know how they planted that otherwise.
He probably, he probably didn't just check the brush. He probably noticed that as he was retreating into the bush after he started the red buff, but then he realized, okay, Sett has prio top. We just saw Trundle in the river. I've got to finish this rather than clear out the wards. So I think that was fine.
They're showing us it was there all along. And yeah, I agree with you that it's fine to do. It's just, you can check that. You can pop into that bush and make sure it's there.
No, but I'm just saying, I think that he didn't actually have the time to clear it, is my point. I think he just kind of had to make the decision, like, it's red buff, or I lose my red buff anyway, because they know
I will say, he could have cleared it by now.
Okay, yeah, you know, I'll give you that. I'll give you that one, yeah. Yeah, fair enough, Medic. I'll give you that.
I mean, I guess the thing about it is, like, it's not really doing anything because he's cleared that entire side of the jungle, but it does mean that there is a TP positioning behind XL if they went for this Rift Herald, where G2 could try and sneak in behind them. Mikyx's teleport is about a quarter of the way before it's back off cooldown, and now Caedrel is going to start up this Rift Herald. And he has both his support and his mid laner here to help him. Also has Kryze deliberately forcing in that top lane wave, being more aggressive than he has in the last few moments to make sure that XL have positioning on the objective.
So, XL have two choices here. They can either use this top lane to try and funnel more gold onto the Quinn, or they can use it mid lane to try and funnel more gold onto the LeBlanc, but also make that tower weaker, which is, again, very valuable against champions like Azir that have very strong wave clear. So it depends what direction XL want to go. I think both are viable, both make sense, but I then also think that the second Rift Herald is really important, and I'd like to see XL use that on the mid lane tower, because I think it's very difficult to siege against the long-range wave clear that Azir does have.
G2 will use the time to get themselves and first dragon of the game. It's Mountain, and next will be Ocean. So we're either going to have an Infernal or a Cloud Rift.
Yep.
I love Cloud Rifts. They're so much fun to watch. Everyone's so speedy. They have all of the extra vision control. Makes fights more enjoyable, in my opinion.
I like all the extra blast cones you get from Infernal, personally. I think they're really funny. Caps and Special taking a bit of trades back and forth. Good trade there for Special. You can see his wave clear doesn't quite match up to that of Caps. Yep. Do also want to mention that it's very uncharacteristic for teams to secure a Herald before they secure a Drake. Normally they're traded, or the Drake is taken first and then you rotate up to Herald, but yeah, it's actually very strange that the first Drake of the game is taken after the first Herald.
I get that, I get that.
We got some late Drakes this game, Medic, as we see a bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be like 16 minutes, 15 minutes before we see our next one, so it will be a little bit of time. Mikyx here, going to face check straight into Torre. Death charge coming out as well, but there's a Cyclone Patrik trying to Moonlight Vigil. Can't quite get the damage down as Mikyx jumps forward once again. Torre flashes across the wall, and there goes Pinoy. First blood with the Dawning Shadow. Caps could be rooted up here by Patrik. Special's on his way, but I'm not sure Patrik wants any more of this party because the last embrace will boot him down. Special's going to try and jump onto Pinoy, but Caps is still putting a lot of damage down as Caedrel jumping forward with the Stormbringer will get one. Mikyx, Jankos, and Caps are on the chase for Special, who continues to distort away. Jankos! Oh, Jankos, that wasn't great. Special will still die. And the Trundle learns what a wall tastes like as he goes face first into the one around mid.
Yeah, so not a great flash there from Jankos. Ends up being a 2-for-1 in favor of G2. Bit of a weird fight, honestly, Medic. It kind of happened all over the place. Caps actually still has his ultimate as well, so I guess he never had an opportunity to get that one off. But let's have a look back at this replay and see how things played out. So XL is just trying to get some vision over this Tribush. They don't actually realize that there's a ward sitting just outside the tribe. So G2 have full information that the TP comes in, forcing Patrik to zone away. Now the damage is actually forced back, so G2's in a better position. So they commit to the chase, which is where they get that initial kill. Patrik then saying, you know, I'm feeling it. I think I can go for this trade against Caps. But then he realizes, maybe this isn't as safe as I thought it was. But notice that Mikyx actually started walking back to lane. So this actually starts off by being a 3 versus 3, and then you end up with this chaotic situation where the fight breaks off into 2 separate fights. G2 is chasing Special, whereas Caedrel was chasing Pinoy, and then it was just a little bit of all over the shop. Of course, G2 do get those kills. Jankos flashes into a wall. Yeah, no real winners at the end of that one, honestly, Medic.
I think G2 won.
Sure.
They got more kills.
Yeah.
You always have to remember as well in fights like that, G2 always know they can be at a numbers advantage because there's no teleport on Kryze. So if they know Kryze is in the top lane, Wunder always has the option to teleport into a fight, whereas Kryze doesn't. But if Kryze leaves the fight, he can get around quite quickly with his bird form. But it does mean he has to leave the lane early on. There's the Riptile popped in the bottom lane as XL try and get themselves a little bit of gold on this Aphelios special. Chased out here by Caps, and there's the ultimate. There's the shuffle in. Special's going to dash across the wall, and Caps flashes, doesn't face plant, and Special goes down. Here comes Kryze, though. Look for the damage here on Caps. The Ignite going down, but the Dawn of Shadow shield might just be enough as Kryze is now going to get chomped out by Jankos. He has to flash away. And that wall has had its fair share of flashes in the last couple of moments.
So, good read there from Jankos and Caps, recognizing that Special would try and force a dive into a 1v1 trade, and they punish his use of the mobility of his W and his ultimate to try and secure that kill. Kryze does his best to actually turn that one around, but unfortunately wasn't able to get much off the back of it. Now, the bright side for XL is you'll notice they're still even in gold medic, because while all those shenanigans were happening, the bot lane was being pushed in, and XL actually secured a tower. So, I was talking about funneling that gold onto Special or Kryze. It's actually been funneled onto the Aphelios, and we'll see how that pans out, because I don't think that Aphelios is going to have a fun time if XL try to force these 5v5s. Don't get me wrong, he's pretty strong against champions that just want to get onto his face, but there's a lot of very dangerous champions as Caps.
Yeah, it's going to try and shuffle away here, but the Harrier passive will come out and Kryze gets the shutdown. It's a good amount of gold going over to the Quinn. I was going to say, not having any gold on your... If you play 1-3-1 as XL, you want the gold to be on the LeBlanc and the Quinn, right? So that they can win out
for sure
in the side lanes. Patrik is in a very strong position, but now Kryze gets that shutdown, gets himself a Blade of the Ruin King, and Wunder might have got himself into a bit of a sticky situation here. The Haymaker shield will do a little bit, but Torre is there tanking up the tower, and Patrik secures the kill. The turret goes down, and a moment ago the gold was even, and now XL have a 1,500 gold lead.
Yeah, that was a pretty big blunder from Wunder there. He just...
A blunder from Wunder.
Yeah, that wasn't intentional at all. Promise.
That was great.
That was... He didn't need to do that. He recognized that there was a duel in the top side of the map. You should expect that XL are playing around the top side of the map as well. And the fact that Wunder kind of walked into that situation meant that it was very easy for them to actually secure a kill. Is this the Observer's highlighting that the control was finally
got killed?
Good
job, Caedrel.
High value control wall there. Thank you very much, Observers. But yeah, now XL can actually start off this next Rift Tower, which they can use to break open the mid tower. And I think XL are showing us a lot of positive things. I like the fact that Kryze is already getting out on the map, upgrading the tier 2 boots very early to give him that additional movement speed as well. And he's been trying to play around Special, looking for kills. Special securing the Luden's Echo. He's still a little weak right now because he doesn't got those early boots. But G2 looking for another fight.
Yeah, just going to get locked against the wall here. Doesn't have the Stormbringer. It's caught up in the last embrace. He will get taken out by Pinoy. However, meanwhile, in the mid lane, Mikyx almost falls. Kryze and Special not quite able to take the kill. Actually, looks like Mikyx may have engaged there onto Special, taking him down to about 300 HP. Pinoy, Dawning Shadow, you got the ult, my man. Jankos going to look to stop Special, but Special very cautiously backs all the way away.
So I like how G2 is responding here, though, because after that little trade in mid, yes, Mikyx lost his flash, but remember how earlier XL kept interrupting the backs of Caps, and it basically meant that his wave state kept getting ruined and he couldn't get as much of an advantage as he wanted to in that 1v1. Well, Mikyx basically just did the same thing to XL there. By delaying the recall of Kryze and Special, it actually gave G2 an opportunity to siege onto this mid-tier 1 and opening up the map a little bit more. So now immediately the gold becomes a lot closer. Now, of course, XL's still sitting with an advantage. They're still in a pretty favorable position, but 2 Drakes have now gone in favor of G2. The 4 Drake win condition is real, and it's a lot easier for G2 to actually force these fights. So now it comes into question how to XL approach the mid game when they have drafted much more of a split push pick style combo. They look to attack the side lanes.
Patrik looked for the Moonlight Vigil there onto Caps, couldn't quite connect with it. The Rift Tower did go in as well, but Caps takes a chunk of damage as Patrik has some good guns for the situation. Calibrum, Infernum, now switching to Severum. Flash in from Torre, he's shuffled away. They're looking for the damage on the tower. Torre goes golden, and Caps is already dead. And now Patrik can step forward with the rest of the team. However, Mikyx has the flank position, hooked out of it by Torre. Graviton gun will do some work here as well as Mikyx can't quite get into the fight. Caedrel fell. Here comes Kryze from the side. Perhaps looking for an engage. Wunder jumping in. There's the base breaker, but Kryze just trying to get onto Pinoy. Torre already dead. Kryze now stuck behind all 4 members of G2. Special jumping in. Patrik doesn't now have good guns. He doesn't have any real long-range damage as Mikyx goes forward once again. Caught up with the ethereal chains, and in the end, G2 will be able to get away, 4 members still alive.
I do quite like the dive that came out from XL, but again, the coordination wasn't on point. I wanted to see the Volibear ultimate come out earlier to disengage the turret, which should have made that dive easier, but at the same time, I recognized that he was probably afraid about the Azir ultimate. So when we jump into the replay, we'll be able to see that while the dive looked pretty promising, where they secured that mid-tier 1, they get a kill onto Caps. Ultimately, they end up losing, I think, 2 or 3 members at the back end of that fight. So really good poke damage coming out from Patrik. I think he does a lot of good damage onto the side of G2, and this flash hook from Torre, he's able to stay quite close, and then the Volibear ultimate comes in. So they commit everything into killing Caps, but now you realize that XL, they're in a pretty sticky situation because they've hard committed to this fight. Kryze hasn't quite joined yet, and then G2 can look for the re-engage while Kryze is kind of zoned out. They then look for the collapse onto Torre, and G2 are just looking for more kills where, yes, XL were able to find that turret, but you got to be careful going for team fights against this G2 comp because it's a lot harder for XL to execute in a 5v5 situation.
Especially since a lot of the gold for XL is on Kryze and Patrik, right? Their 2 AD carries are ahead in this game because of the shutdown that Kryze got and because of just all of the gold that's been funneled into Patrik. And that just means G2 can very easily itemize Ninja Tabis. We talked about it, right? They have a bunch of them already. I think Wunder's got one, Jankos has got one, and Mikyx got one. It makes it really hard to actually work your way through them in fights if all of your damage is being reduced by 10%. So I'd love to see Special get some kills. I'd love to see him get some more gold under his back pocket because otherwise I think G2 can just face first into some of these fights.
Well, we'll have to wait and see because the Infernal Drake spawns in 30 seconds, and you can see that XL is definitely setting up for it. G2 is going to push in the mid wave. They don't have the bot tier 1, but that's okay because they do have full river control right now. A lot of the vision that XL was just setting up is going to be denied. You can see a couple pings coming from behind for G2. No. I don't think they have the front line. G2
I think
actually
XL
fight.
Red and Baron though. XL's going to get jumped on here as Patrik is just dead. I think XL were looking to threaten Baron as G2 went for the 3rd dragon of the game, but G2 called their bluff and just jumped straight onto Patrik.
So that was pretty wild. I'm surprised that G2 just went for the engage, but they must have known that Patrik did not have his flash based off the last fight, and they were like, well, if he's just going to sit in mid lane, we have loads of dive, and it's really easy for us to just collapse on him, especially when he doesn't have the best peel. And they just kill him, and this will secure them the 3rd Drake. So, like, good decision-making there from G2. And this is kind of what we were talking about. You know, we really set this narrative up very early on about the Drakes, and G2 put a lot of focus on these Drakes. And XL, well, I think they've done a pretty good job of finding picks, finding skirmishes, kind of getting their solo laners to a point where they can actually threaten on a side lane. When it comes down to these objectives, it just feels like that G2 are taking advantage of XL and their positioning, and they're able to often come out ahead.
Yeah, and you can see that, like, that was purely G2 running at Patrik. Like, there wasn't anything fancy. Jankos flash pillared, and it was just like, okay, we're all going in now, and there's no real powerful disengage for Patrik if he gets jumped on. That's why you've said it a few times. He may struggle in teamfights just because G2 are able to dive onto him on that backline. Even Torre, if he's there, is going to struggle to keep so many players from getting on towards his AD carry. For now, though, we've got 4 minutes before what could be the deciding moment of this game. That Infernal Soul as 1,000 gold lead still for XL. 2 items complete on Patrik. He's been a key player for them throughout the entirety of the split.
Did he just use heal?
He just used heal. He's just used...
sorry, I didn't realize Wunder was there. Maybe he used it because he was afraid of Wunder like flashing on his face or something.
Maybe. That felt weird, I'll be honest. I thought he was cycling unsealed spellbooks and then was like, no, Patrik doesn't have unsealed spellbooks, so... Anyway.
We'll have to ask him. Either way, he doesn't have heal now. That's a big deal. His flash is still on cooldown. G2 kind of posturing around the mid lane. Have their eyes set on Special. I don't think he knows Wunder.
Oh, Wunder has the flank, but Special can jump away. Oh, he gets away straight away. Perfect timing on that. The streamer shuffle perhaps a little bit too late. The Emperor's Divide not going to be able to catch him out. And meanwhile, Kryze is pushing in. Yeah, Kryze is pushing in that bot lane. Bedius, G2 going to try and four-man force through mid. They have the Sun Disc, but Patrik with the Infernum can clear through this wave pretty quickly. Moonlight Vigil will be used. Pinoy's going to heal them up. Slasher jumps in just to try and get a bit of harass down, but Kryze, he's up towards the inhibitor line now. Mikyx going to go back and try and deal with this Quinn as Kryze decides to recall, and XL keep the turret in mid alive.
I like this a lot from XL. I think that was the best play. There's no neutral objective outside of the Baron that XL have to be worried about. And obviously with G2 just kind of running it down mids, they obviously don't have to worry about that. So they're just saying, right, let's just wave, let's just hold, and we'll let Kryze split push in the bot lane. And I think the way in which they executed that was pretty solid. They're able to take themselves to tier 2. It actually ends up, wasn't even a trade, because I think that G2 already took that mid tier 1 earlier. So I think that XL actually come out ahead off the back of this trade after what could have been a very deadly kill onto Special, and maybe even opened up the Baron for G2.
I still just keep looking at that top left corner of the screen, Betty. It's 2 minutes, 10 seconds before something has to happen in this game, before either XL have to fight, have to find a pick, or Kryze might be caught out here. He has got the blast cone to get away, but he's staying around quite a while. Torre's just around the corner from him as well, yeah. I
think what you said right there about the pick is what XL should be looking for. Try and find a pick before the dragon starts, and then use that as a window to actually go and sneak away the Drake, and then you're actually still in contention for this. Because as we mentioned, they have really strong side laners. So as long as XL can split up the map and play through bot lane and top lane, then they still have a really solid chance of taking down G2, but... Oh, flashing, good hook!
Cass gets caught out, the Emperor's Divide comes down as well, but Patrik needs one more auto attack to take the kill. And there's the pick, Betty, as you said it just a moment ago, and XL find it.
That is a clutch pick, and while the Dragon isn't up, the Baron certainly is. There is 35 seconds that XL can look to secure this. They've got Aphelios, he has the chakrams. Here we go, XL going to start this one off.
And you've got 2 AD carries, because Kryze can just work through it as well with the Blade of the Ruin King and the Phantom Dancer. He will add his support incredibly quickly. Jankos now perhaps caught out, but Mickey does a really good job of jumping onto Special. Jankos, though, still very low. He's going to get taken out. Patrik now gets the second kill of the game. Mickey trying to dodge around. The Baron has reset just a little, I believe, off towards the top side of this, but XL are going to start it up once again. Caps up in 9 with TP. Another hook lands. It's Wunder who's been caught. The chain's going to lock him down. Caedrel jumping forward with the Stormbringer. Mickey trying to get on towards the back line. Caedrel's low, though. You don't want to lose your jungler before this happens. As Caps goes in, he's going to teleport into the fight. Now it's Patrik. He's winning a 2v1. Pinoy's trying to get away. And here comes Caps. The flash away from Patrik keeps him alive. Mickey dies as well. And this has been exceptional stuff from Patrik and from XL as well. I thought Caedrel was going to fall. I thought they bitten off more than they could chew. Caps, though, somehow finds 2 at the end of it. But XL get an ace and they turn back towards the Baron.
This teamfight was basically Patrik versus Caps, and Patrik was just better set up for success. He was able to find crucial kills onto so many G2 members, and XL will now secure the Baron.
Oh.
Beautiful execution as Jankos is actually looking to sneak away the Infernal, looks like, Medic.
Because who do you send, right? Caedrel needs to be there to tank it up. Maybe you send Torre over to try and deal with it. But you gotta run. Mickey's gonna teleport in. Special 11 seconds on his TP. Of course, Kryze doesn't have one, and Jankos has already started this one up. XL gotta try and fight for this because an Azir with Infernum is gonna be absolutely devastating. XL coming in, but it's a 3v2, 4v2 in just a second as Pinoy comes around the corner, and that Dragon's already been started up, and XL realize they can't fight. Oh, what the? No, what? How did he? What? I don't even know how he got that. Mickey's gonna jump in now. Jankos, how did what? Patrik's dominating. I don't even understand. I don't even understand it, Vedius.
I'm actually, I was actually left speechless. That was crazy. Patrik... Was it Patrik that stole that? Or was
Patrik stole it. I think it was like an Infernum proc from the Scuttle Crab or something. I have no idea.
I'll be honest, at first I was so confused. I was like, what's so surprising here, Medic? And then at third, I looked at the top of the screen, I was like, oh, that's what's surprising. Oh, I see. Patrik is literally 1v9ing versus G2 right now.
He does it all. He gets the kills, he wins the team fights, he steals away the Dragon Betty. In the replay, we will see what he does, because I really just... Oh, it's the Sentry. It's the Sentry Infernum prop.
No.
Is that auto on Wunder? Oh my god!
Oh my... What?
I thought Heimerdinger was the best with turrets, but apparently it's Aphelios. He does it all, everyone. What a steal. Dear God.
Oh my word. And that's it. That's all the time that they need. Like, admittedly, I was not expecting the game to play out like this. You know?
How good is this for XL? Now, we will mitigate our praise for XL by saying, hey, G2 are playing with us up. Pinoy is playing for them. This is not G2 at their full strength. But
sure,
XL, up until 2 weeks ago, hadn't got a single win, and now they're looking at 4 wins out of their last 5. Like, this is so good for them.
And, like, Torre's got to be, like, while we're giving all this praise to Patrik, right, it was Torre's hook in mid lane onto Caps that set that whole play up.
Yep.
So, mad props to him for finding that engage, because by taking out Caps, it opened up the options for XL. Now with the Baron, it should be easy to siege, but of course because of all the shenanigans around Drake, the amount of time that XL had with the Baron was reduced, and so G2 are now holding the line. And this is where things, again, you have to just kind of err on the side of caution. G2's teamfight comp is still very strong. Aphelios is in a great position. He has 3 items, so XL should still be considered the favorites with the gold advantage that they have, but you don't want to count G2's comp out just yet because of how powerful this Azir can be later on.
Well, Caps has had a couple of good teamfights so far, but it's going to be a difficult one for him to close out here. Kryze going to spot out Jankos as he steps forward. Kryze and Special not having the Baron buff has made this a lot harder for XL to push in. Of course, they died with it. It's about to fall off, but you can see they were using Caedrel in the side lane. They were trying to find some pressure in mid just through Patrik having it, but the key components of their 1-3-1, not having the Baron, made it a little bit more tricky for them to go in for those fights.
That's true. Yeah,
2 minutes left on the Infernum. Infernal, sorry, before the next Dragon Sports. 2.5 on Baron and a 7,000 gold lead right now for XL.
So, some big items have been finished. Medic, the death cap is now done for Special. He's also level 16. He's actually a higher level than Caps, which is a really big deal for the LeBlanc because, you know, there's often this debate where she kind of falls off late game. That's not really true. She just becomes like, she's like a poke champion late game. You know, she jumps over the wall, she lands a combo, a quick combo on you, and then all of a sudden you're at half HP and you can't fight anymore, right? So by having the death cap available, it really increases the amount of poke that you have. Infinity Edge is done for Kryze, also level 16. So even though we make this argument that G2's teamfight comp is like stronger, the reality is because of the item advantages that XL do have, because of the level advantages that they have as well, it kind of makes up for the difference in the cost, which means that XL still have full control over this game. They don't need to rush anything right now. They are very comfortable, very strong. They just need to take their time. Similar to what we saw from Schalke earlier in the day. Patience is key, and finding a big win over G2 is exactly how they want to end out their first half of the season.
Definitely put them on the road to a possible playoffs spot. We said it a few times, but of course, playoffs so important in this summer season. There's no regional gauntlet. There's no falling back on championship points or anything. You have to make it into playoffs if you're going to get to Worlds, and we have 4 seeds, so you have an increased chance of making it to Worlds this year as a European team. And with some of the teams that you would consistently expect to make it, you know, the Origins, the Fnatic, the G2s, not looking as good as they have in the past, this is your prime opportunity. G2 going to force in mid here. There's a flank position for Special, but the Sun Disc goes down. That's going to make it a little bit tricky for him. Kryze coming in from the top side of the map as well as the tier 2 falls. Patrick's going to step in. The hook lands onto Jankos from Torre once again. In goes Mikyx with the Cyclone. Going to get some damage down, but Special's already assassinated Pinoy. And Mikyx's doing what he can to take out his fellow support. Moonlight Vigil chunks out Caps. Patrik continues just to rain hell on the G2 players here with this Aphelios, and it's only Wunder and Mikyx left alive. Patrik's going to try and rectify that as Mikyx falls. Wunder sidesteps everything he can, but in the end, Special gets the kill. XL find 5, and they're going to look to push in at these side lanes.
Yeah, Caps really fumbled in that team fight. He was the player that needed to come out clutch if G2 wanted to stand a chance of turning this game around, but Patrik was barely touched. Special's positioning was perfect because he kept coming in to clean up at the end of each fight, making sure that those executes are coming through, and I think that Caedrel and Torre did their jobs. You know, they just soaked up the damage. They were there on the front line, and they were just doing what they could to buy time for their carries to clean up. So, really well executed fight overall from XL. And we're having a look at the replay now. You can see that Special and Kryze come in from the left flank. Tori comes in from the right, and it's that front line. And then look at Patrik. He isn't really touched in this fight. Mikyx doesn't even get a knock-up onto him, and he can't come anywhere near him. Meanwhile, Special coming over the wall, getting that burst down. Jankos getting chunked out as well. Wunder only just now arriving to the fight. And then we'll see here from Caps. He takes a huge amount of damage from Patrik, goes in, flashes in, doesn't even land the ultimate, gets stunned, and then Special's able to flash over the wall and get that execute. So, bit of a fumble there from Caps, but the rest of XL executing that beautifully.
I think Kryze may have vaulted him out of his animation. And I really want to watch that again. I'm seeing it on a slightly smaller screen than we would, and I'm sure someone in chat or someone on Twitter will be like, hey, yeah, that's what happened, or that didn't happen. But that would have been, like, I think that's a really good play from Kryze. Of course, it is point and click, so it's easier to hit than some of the animation cancels that you could have, but I think it's good stuff all around. Kryze, level 17 to Mikyx level 15, uses the vault once again to just get that slow on Mikyx, and the phase rush gives him so much movement speed to try and get out of this. There's still a turret here for him to get underneath, and G2 is still going to look for the dive, but once again, the vault! Oh, Kryze showing us just what you can do on this Quinn as XL start up the BAM, and Pinoy, Jankos and Caps trying to get in here to steal it away, but Caedrel lands the smite. Special's pushing in, he's got the inhib already chunked out in that top lane. Kryze manages to survive, and here comes the TP in from Special. Kryze going to join this fight. It's a 4v3 right now, but XL might just want to get out with their Baron. They've taken an inhib in the top lane as well.
Man, this bot lane from XL. We talked about them at the start of the game medic and talked about how Patrik really is that kind of shining star for the team, but when you enable him, you can see how powerful he can be, and when Kryze is in a position where he gets to flex his muscles on his carries, you can see what he's actually able to do. And sure, Special was punished hard in the early game, but I feel like we're starting to see what he can do when he moves into this mid to late game, and when he's actually put in a position where he's not just getting absolutely destroyed in the early and in a massive deficit. So XL coming out clutch right now, a big win against G2, and as you mentioned, G2 of course playing with a sub, but I think that the way in which XL have punished them has been really strong. Attacking Caps, he actually has the most deaths on G2's side. Putting him behind, allowing him to actually hard carry like he did yesterday on his Cogmore, I think has worked out beautifully, and now Patrik in a position to actually carry this game as G2 needs to try and kill him.
Deja vu, deja vu. We've seen Patrik in this position before. He's shuffled back. He does have the GA this time, and he's not taking any damage. Oh my god, the Severum just does so much work for him. G2 going to try and capitalize on him as he comes back up. He's healing. He's surviving. Oh my god. Get Aphelios, G2. Good stuff from Special to come in and get the triple. Wunder's going to get killed at the end as well. It's a quadra for Special. Patrik survives, and G2 just cannot kill Aphelios.
Oh my word. I can see the memes now. You just got Aphelios, G2, Patrik 9-1-10. Well played by him. XL going to secure a big win against G2.